Hello again, my name is Potekala. I would like to introduce you our guest and thank them for having joined us at this event in Murska Sobota. But before I do that, I would also like to welcome our commentators from the floor and invite them, and also the audience, of course, to join later on the debate openly, freely, whenever they feel like, or whenever they would like to share their own experience related to the topic discussed.
We are really so glad to welcome you, so many different profiles and experience that you have to tackle the issue like performing in public space, designing in public space, and also to find some synergies and maybe common vision how to deal with the public space. As I heard before from Matjaž, that architects are maybe measuring the space with different measures, and the human being then is attached in that public space. So we are really interested how the debate will go on. So maybe we can just start it with, I would like to invite Marcel to first question, how do you as an artist perceive the public space, and what dimensions and intentions of the public space do inspire and encourage artists like you, Culture Streets, to create within the public space and not within the theater closed spaces?
Yeah. So, it's a very complex question of where do we play and how do we play and why there and why not at other spots of the spaces. Before we go into specifically that question, I would like to show you a little game, if you don't mind. It's a very silly game, I'm really sorry about it. So, the game goes like this. Find a partner sitting next to you. Okay, look at someone sitting next to you. Okay, alright, there's someone, everybody found someone, okay, look away, alright, look again at the same person, and have a physical contact, small physical contact, yeah, and now, do the same thing, look at that partner of yours, have physical contact, and give out a sound that shows that you're feeling good. Yeah? Try it. Everybody try it. Okay, that's better. That's better, right? It feels much better to look, to touch, and to give out some sound. And I don't think it matters if we are inside or outside, as long as we are free to do what we feel like to do, connecting to each other. And obviously, when we are outside on the street, in a park, on the square, wherever you are, there are more people with more interest, there's more energy going on, so you really want to connect. You want something to happen to you. And I think that's what theater is for, to start a new story with the other person. Very little of your time happens unpredictable, like something that's totally new happens and you change each other right away, because unless you're actors and you're going crazy, you're living together and you're working on projects in the house. Everybody's hungry for connection, but everybody's afraid of connection in the same time. So it's a very ambiguous, it's a very thin road. Where can you connect to people? So in culture on the streets in the EU program, I think one of the main initiatives was this. Go out there and do something out there that will work much better out there than inside. Now, did this really happen? Does this really work? I'm not going to evaluate that, because I don't think I should. Because it depends on the people. It depends on all those performers and directors who did it. We did it in Tallinn, in Estonia, at the festival in 2010, I think, 2 years ago. And we had a great time because we had a show on an outside, in a bar, on an outside path of a bar where people are usually just drinking and having fun and there's a lot of air. Now they could watch a dance show and they could dance together with the people with live music, together with those dancers. Obviously professional dancers, as they could see, they could stand up and do something new. They could change their life right there on the spot.
Yes, thank you. Very inspiring, maybe also for the career. What do you think, how do then researchers and architects approaches, perceive those artistic interventions in the public space? Do you try to evaluate the effects of those interventions? Is there some positive ways of the public space to get a better image or quality image after the artistic interventions?
I think the evaluation of those kind of public art and interventions are quite new in the field of research. I mean, I think all over Europe and all over the world there is like from the 60s this willing to go to the public space, but in the field of research, or at least in the field of urban research or architectural research, is something quite new. So, for example, I'm dealing a little bit with all of this, but I must say that even if we can see global general things, you always have to look at the specific context, you know. So it's difficult to give a general evaluation of what art does to public space. I think it's more something contextual.
Yes, and what kind of criteria maybe do you use to somehow analyze those events, on which kind of aspects do you look to those?
I'm most of all interested in how public space can be connected to the public sphere. So how the actions we do in the public space can become somehow political. In my research work, this is the kind of things I evaluate. How we pass from the fact that maybe we want to do things in public space and interact together, from that being together to something I would say more political, like a statement or something like that. Because I think there is a close link between public space and public sphere, and maybe it's because I'm French speaking, and in French public space and public sphere both are the same, you know. You say public space for public space and public sphere, so maybe it's for that, you know. But I really think that that today public space in democratic countries are somehow the places in which we can experiment this being together, and then maybe act to reclaim something new or something else, or other ways of being together. I don't know if it was clear, but that's the idea.
Okay, what about you, Emil? How do you perceive the public space, or even more, where in the public space, do you find your stage for artistic creation, and why there? And are there any specific characteristics of the venue you select that support or determine or even challenge artistic processes?
Our method that has developed in the past decades has started out from a need of looking for a space, because when we started in the year 1986, we wanted to establish Universitäts Kulturzentrum, a university cultural center at the university, at the very young university in Klagenfurt, Zellowitz. Klagenfurt, I don't know who knows this area, is a rather rural area, only 500,000 people living in the whole region of Carinthia, and there is a border situation to Slovenia and Italy. It's an area that has been economically declining the past 150 years, and it was important once, but it's not no longer today. And so our method that we developed in the past few almost 2 decades is that we are looking for special places that might be a village, that might be a soul house, or an object. It might be a natural arena, it might be a tree or something. And for these places, we are trying to find artists who are prepared to deal with the place, with the history, with the problems, with the people, and then develop a project. And what was our last work supported by the EU is this atlas of special or particular places that where they are invited writers, authors, and photographs to visit them and to write a literary and photographic portrait of this place. And on some of these places, we realized and implemented other projects like with architects, with musicians, with performers.
Okay, thank you, Emily. And maybe your counterpart, Matej, for example, you can share with us how does the concept of urban design include such artistic interventions or events that occupy places? What kind of research methods you use to deal with this issue?
I think that the discipline so far was quite readily equipped with the proper tools to follow these interventions, as already Raphael. Even if the need for new tools and covering this aspect was indicated already back in the 60s by Culturna and other researchers in this field. But with the new wave of interest into public space, which is happening with urban planning and urban design in the last decade, I would say, there are new trials how to tackle these actions and interventions into the public space and follow the bottom-up approach. I guess we are quite familiar with the fact that in the modernistic or functionalistic periods, the public space was designed quite top-down, so the planner would decide what's the best for the city and its citizens. And this is now turned, I would say it's turning upside down. So the professional field is aware of the fact that you need to understand what's going on there, what are the needs of people, the needs of real people in real places, which are very diverse around the places, as Raphael said, we cannot generalize it. And we are trying to develop new methods. One of the slides here, which is rolling, was showing the so-called human cities observation mission tool. This was one of the trials how to develop a new tool which would decide the spatial aspect of the space and its functions, also cover the experiences of the spaces, which are present only in users' minds. Then the cognitions, which is the next step from perception, and also how can we as designers understand the processes that lead to the public space as it is. Not as we as designers would like to have it, but really understand its true nature. But another problem, or maybe an issue, is also that the architectural field, or architecture as a profession was trained in a manner that we are the ones who know what the city and the people need, but in fact it's not true. It's also a lot to be done in the field to change this aspect of looking onto the topic within the professional field. Because still today it's very common that the architect, especially big architects, would feel the most competent to decide how the public space should look like. And I think it's very much to be done in the field of the architectural education, to teach the new generation of architects to go closer to people and to their needs.
I would like to welcome and contact Ivo now to share us your experience, because you found also on a specific site to do your theater play.
For us, as my theater group, it's really important what's the motives. Why do you go out of your comfortable stage? So one is who do you want to address to? So if you want to go to some specific place to address some people, or do you want to address to broader audience, how to say? So that's one thing. Another thing is if you want to make performance or your action at some place because of this place, like we had a performance on ruins of our library in Belgrade, it was burned down in a Second World War, or you want to go and have performance, for example, in a bus. So we chose the bus because we wanted, for the first reason, so to address people. We wanted to address people who maybe would never go to theater. We chose this bus 26 in Belgrade. It's public time, so we made performance in a public bus, which is usual bus. So people would go there, buy ticket, so it's not for audience. And also we choose the line in Belgrade, which connects like really posh and like expensive part of the city. It goes through the center of the city, pass nearby our theater. This was also one of the reasons, and ends up in really poor part of the city where most of the population are Roma population, really poor people, and then we finish it in ugly blocks of buildings made for working people class. So we wanted to address those people because the theme of the performance was to speak about tolerance, to speak about how many nations or people live in Belgrade. And I'm speaking about Belgrade because it was the first initial performance. And that all different nations, all different kind of people was building this city. Well, we have something which we call it a quiz for bus passengers, and then we say, like, for example, do you know that first Buddhist temple in Europe was situated in Belgrade? So it's kind of quiz, but with this little bit tricky questions. It's not interactive performance. Performance is like made like this, so people just watch. Some stay one station, two station, some stay all the time because they like it. Yeah.
So they miss the bus stop.
Yes, usually, yeah. It can happen. Yeah.
So there, did you notice some effect that people went on a bus more frequently, or they come to the theater after this action performance on the bus? What did you notice maybe?
Well, I don't know. I don't think so. Honestly saying, I don't think so. Maybe they, but it's not the goal that people see the performance and then, wow, this is theater, this is nice. Yeah. It's really just to put a little bit of lightness in their daily life, in their hard daily life, just to see that theater is not something, or acting is not something, I don't know, out of space, or like you see in the movies, or whatever, that it's really like, really close.
Yeah, close.
Exactly.
Closer, yeah. In what way do you understand the concept of urban design while you are doing this interesting project, also acupuncture, with a little, small, precisely intervention on it?
Yes, thank you. This concept of acupuncture follows very nicely what Michael was saying. about planning and entering in the public spaces. This is one of these bottom-up efforts to find out what are the real interests and real needs of the population for using public space. And actually the interest for this methodology started maybe 5-6 years ago when we're thinking of some city quarters that don't have this very good connection between their physical structure and their social structure. And we're thinking that like these two networks have some specific dots when they overlap, and if we have small interventions and very precisely planned interventions on the dots, we could have maybe better effects with less effort to achieve very good reactions of the population, of achieving better social connectivity and connection of the citizens and their physical structure where they're living. The first thing that we came out with these interventions has to be taught out interdisciplinary, and the second thing that it has to include participation of all interested parties in the space. So we were trying to have a workshop which would end with small interventions, which would be then presented to the local authorities as some sort of proposal for making urban life in their quarter a little bit better. And this process started with some interdisciplinary discussions, which in the beginning they would try to widen the discussion, have all the elements, all the interests, all the opinions from different professionals, from different types of population, NGOs, included in the discussion. And then when we thought that everything is covered, then interdisciplinary teams would try to think of small interventions that would reflect this global sense of space, vision of potential of the part of the city and so on. When we go to the part of the participation of the local inhabitants, then it goes even further that if interventions are like that, they can participate in the creation of the intervention of the city, then they feel it's something that they have, that is theirs. But also for the city and the municipality, there's a big advantage from these workshops because these interventions actually speak of the large, small interventions speak of the large interventions that are needed to have life of small interventions which will be artistic, architectural, landscape, and so on. So these small interventions also speak about the big interventions that the municipality has to do and how flexible, on what way they need to be to achieve, to enable life in them to go through.
What concrete things you did in the public space, or you're only in the first phase, debating among various players, or you already actually executing some interventions in the public space?
We had four workshops, and some proposals for the interventions stayed on the level of proposal, but we had a few interventions that were made. The one interesting workshop was for the complex of hospital for children of special needs. So our interdisciplinary team thought of a little story for the hospital, and one of the interventions was painting the backplace. Some other intervention was graphic interventions in the waiting rooms where children could play with some animals on the walls and stuff. So that was one sort of. But our interventions can vary from as you said, making a place by putting a bench or something that would be also an example. But also to some temporary interventions. It can vary. Everything that on this particular spot can make a big effect.
No, I just wonder what's the follow-up from the side of the city administration. Is there any movement there, or is just intervention and then they agree with what you did and that's it?
That is the very important question. At the moment, these interventions which you made were just approved, and they mostly think we are playing something. Not like doing something seriously, but what they said, these interventions speak of the space that they have authority of. There is a big potential for them to have as some sort of problem list or potential list to make their big interventions. Now with the new project, we are hoping to achieve better communication and include them more in this process. Yes, have a better dialogue about it.
Maybe we can at this point include our commentators to tell us about this communication among artists and urban designers, researchers, and on the other side is communications, how to deal with those interventions on public space, about the regulation, legislation and so on. Maybe
we are trying to integrate in this part architects, because if we try to make some project, we are not experts in everything. That's why we also like to speak to experts and they tell us how to do it. I guess this is a possibility also in open space and public space to discuss it. And I guess we are welcome everything what improves the public space. But in general, I think we are against everything what damage the public space. For instance, that you don't understand me better, Moscow wants to be the green city, and every year wants to put many new trees planted. And then in the cultural, when we received project for the cultural capital, we received a project who wants to make sculpture out of avenues. So that means 100 trees will be damaged. Will be that in the end, or the sculpturing, and we are against it. So we disapprove some projects. And I guess if we will allow such kind of project, I don't think the public reaction will be okay. So everything what improves our space is welcome. But this, what's damaging the public space, we're not very keen to do it.
So, do you perceive urban art furniture, so to say, as a challenge or even as an obstacle for you? And on the other hand, what do you think is there in the public space that remains unseen to the urban planners or designers, and for you represents an inspiration for artistic creation?
Yeah, as I was listening to the others, I was just thinking about the biggest problem is that we don't give enough tools to our children in public spaces. Like, why is it dangerous for a child to walk around on the street? In my city, it would be not a city that's serving traffic and business or whatever you want to call it. It would serve the people. It would serve. So you're talking about furnitures. It can be furnitures. It can be nature, trees, whatever you want to call it. Any kind of scenery that is giving the people a feeling of freedom and safetyness. And you mentioned Shakespeare saying that the world is a big stage. I think what he meant is that we're playing from age zero. Like, playing is our main way of survival. Like, we are playing animals. If you play with things around you in that sense, then you're going to make your life livable. Not just more livable, livable, full stop. So that's what I do. As of course, you know, the people that are sitting here obviously are creators and very innovative and very creative and so on, and artists maybe, or they don't want to call themselves artists, or they do, but artist means child in my reading. So, and an artist needs a space that is safe, just like a child, to be able to play.
Matej, do you, urban designers, researchers in your case, consider these objects in the public space that might also represent an obstacle for specific user in specific situations? So, do you think that urban designers, architect only thinks about this urban furniture as something beautiful, you know, that will make this place beautiful, or they think that, this is nice to look at it, but it may represent an obstacle for this sort of user, you know, for this kind of user, for a specific group, for an artist maybe, or for a child, or, you know, for
I think that urban designers are a very diverse group of people, so some would be well aware of this fact, yes, that we can put something there, it can be an obstacle for somebody. In general, I think there is this awareness, yes. But the real problem is, for example, when you're in practice, if you're an urban designer or architect, you're given a concrete space. You can go there, you can see what's there, you can do your classical analysis, for example, spatial analysis. You can analyze all the levels, the rhythms, the geometries and everything. But you always miss more essential data, which is like behavioral patterns, how do people perceive this space, what are the recognitions of this space, and so on and so on. We have different users, everybody has its own opinion, and usually you're given quite short time to decide your main design concept, and then you have to follow it. And what we try to do as researchers is to set up some databases that would be available to the designer prior to his design intervention, which will inform him or her about what people do in this space, when do they use it, how do they use it, who uses it, in what way, and then how do they perceive it.
Can you maybe just give again a concrete example? For example, if you have a park, you know, are you thinking that people are gathering in that western part of that park because there is this beautiful tree, or you know, just
if you're an experienced designer, you would guess, and your guess would be quite close to the reality, but not always, and sometimes you might be quite misled by some facts. So there are different techniques how to get this information. One quite well-known is behavioral mapping. It means that you go to the space, you try to not expose yourself, and then you observe what's going on and you map it. And then you put this into the database, which is usually used in urban planning, and this is a new level of space. But when you're in a design role, you're usually given a concrete space, you have the plan of the space, and that's all what you know. You always miss this soft data. And we believe that as researchers we could develop better tools to understand the spaces and consequently provide better places. And as it's obviously here, it's important to include the user, either by observing what he's doing from outside, either asking him what do you think about the space, and so on.
I'm a little curious. I would like to ask also about this urban design process. Do the artists or creative people think also about the spaces that how they are attracted to the public space, which one to choose, you know, for their interventions, their motives? Because I think maybe some public spaces, one of them are there, you know, like designed, where there is this motivation for the intervention, or you seek looking for maybe some special ones, forgotten ones, maybe to recall them, to awaken them because of different reasons? And do you feel that it is a positive start to actually communicate in the process of urban planning together with the designers, or there is a need to, to go after searching the field, or you would like to enter into the process of urban planning process before the, let's say, public space is created?
For example, this methodology of city architecture is somewhere in between. It's trying to touch the people and the bottom-up principle, but also try to include the top-down planning process. So our project is trying to be somewhere in the middle, not to be like some sort of guerrilla intervention, but also not to start to be a part of the planning process. So it's like floating somewhere in between, trying to connect. That is something. Also, I wanted to comment a bit of what Michael was saying. The problem of the top-down planning process is that we are trying to guess what are the needs, and we put something. Okay, this may be it, and as Michael said, we sometimes guess, sometimes we are completely wrong. But the problem of the bottom-up process is that it's hard to tell which are the two needs and two processes, two things that should happen in the public space, and what are some particular interests of the individuals that are not good for the general. So in any way we try to get to them, there must be some sort of filter that decides, okay, this is a really good interest for the public, for the common, but and this is a particular interest that will maybe be good for him, or this is some sort of secondary vision of the space or something like that. In the difference of this methodology that you're representing, this is like analytic methodology. We decided not to go in this way. We have a little bit different approach. I think these different approaches of mapping what are the interests and potentials and what is the spirit of the space are very good and very cool. Always a little bit more creative. Not to get too much into the numbers, details, maps, but more to try, okay, let's talk about this, let's be creative about this space, and this will speak for us. This will tell us the story of the space. This creative process will always tell us a nice story about the place that we are working in. So that is interesting for our methodology.
I think at some point you always have to take decisions. The criteria in decision-making process is really crucial. So, what is the criteria to evaluate or disevaluate something? Or I think Rafael can talk about this. But also, who is then the one who will take the final decision? Is it a group of users? Is it a city municipality responsible person? Is it a group of professionals, or who is it? I'm just trying to expose that it's really about decision making, and that in this process we have to define criteria which has to be agreed among the widest possible public as possible. And at the end also to take responsibility and say, yes, this is the decision, and we will stand behind this decision.
This reminds me of the story of Central Park in New York City. When they built it, there were no roads in it for 100 years. I don't know if it's a true story or not. It was told that they left the park without roads, and then they let the people do whatever they wanted to do with them. And after 100 years, they started to build things in it where they saw where people walked.
From the public, from the audience, there are not any questions to join us?
Okay, about the Muska Sobota and stuff and planning.
we tried to help really a lot, planners, urban planners, and we help as we can. So, but as he said, it's not all decision what the municipality and Murska Sobota actually take in plans and what do they decide to take in plans. So, okay, that is just about the Murska Sobota. So we actually help as architects and landscape architects. So another question for me is about reflection of people. You talked about these artists on bus. How did they react, actually, the normal people that were taking bus? How was it for them? Did they like it? Did they join it? Or how was it? So another question also for me, for others. How do you take in mind the users and how do you take their reply? So how do you get it actually after you do the intervention in public space?
First of all, we didn't have bad reactions at all, except one guy who was really drunk. You all know that situation is not so good with the tolerance and speaking in this manner in Serbia generally and of course in Belgrade. But then when you don't speak in like parola, or I don't know in English, like if you don't say like you must live together, you must, you know, yeah. When you have all these things, what I was speaking about, like so clear message and like elaborate scenes, elaborate form of theater, then people don't get it as an attack. Actually, one of the reactions was like, "Oh my God, what they did to us!" You know, concerning like civil war in ex-Yugoslavia and like all this hate talk on TV, in media, you know, just burning this. We achieved our goal to, you know, to go to speak with simple people, with common people, and to bring this idea of tolerance and like living together. But in Western Europe, kind of, like we perform in Western Denmark, in Ringkøbing, small city. It was our assumption that it's like they don't have this kind of problems, and we were a little bit concerned, like maybe it's not performance for them. But actually, what we discovered that we received many like cold and like really blank faces, you know, or just looking out of the window, you know, because I don't know why. I'm not saying that there is like people are not tolerant in Europe, of course, but I just wanted to say that this problem obviously exists also in Europe, in Western or Northern Europe, where for us, for me as a Serbian, I think that like Danish people are much more tolerant. They don't have problem with nationalities, religion, but it exists all over the place.
In Yugoslav case, we have this place that is very limited, a bus. So actually, people are closed in a very small space, and they are actually forced to have a physical contact. Actually, while in your case, you go on really in nature, in open, abandoned places. Actually, you have to bring physically people there. But again, similar as in Yugoslav case, the situation is very emotional, and you also deal with this multi-ethnic, you know, communities. And sub-question, maybe, can you feel or see that there are any effects of your interventions in those places?
I believe that we should recounter the public space, you know, even if it's only temporarily. And we should obey and follow all the regulations. So I pledge for an informal creation of public space. And this is of course easier in the open nature than maybe in the urban area. And from my experience, I have the feeling that there is a growing audience. People who want to feel themselves in a different way, who want to measure an area, who want to leave their traces there. And this is what art can provide, can give to them. In our case, we have really growing, increasing audience who wants to spend more than 12 hours with us, with the artists. The projects are always site-specific. The themes are like you mentioned, the nationalistic conflict, the history, the languages, and we try, since we're in the 3-4 lingual part, our performances play with this. So it's always at least Slovenian, Italian, German, and many Corinthian people who heard so far only the German language, they don't know that they are Slovenes in their own country, they discover something new and they start to love it and to appreciate it. It's not about going for 2 hours in a white cube and visit an exhibition or a theater performance and then go to the next spot, but it's staying together the whole day and forming sort of a social sculpture, together with the friends and the rest of the audience and the artist. This is maybe an answer to the first part, and the second part about the traces or effects that maybe these kind of artistic methods might have to the area. Maybe I should tell you about an example from Friuli, from Italy, near to Civitale, where our long-term partner is situated. The partner is called Associazione di Topolo, Postale Topolove, and this is a group of people, architects and poets, musicians, artists, who have started with an initiative 15 years ago in the very east of Friuli. This is also a mixed bilingual park with very nice, mostly villages without inhabitants. So many people had to leave because of economic needs. And there's one place called Tokolona, and in this place, this group started with by means of contemporary art interventions. So they invited artists from they had a good network, so they invited them from all over the world, really international, to stay there and to reflect the situation of this village, which is very nice, of course. And they left in these 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks that they spent there, little traces, little interventions. And now, 15 years later, this little Topolo is sort of famous in the festival and the artistic region. I mean, there are many artists really all over the world when you mention Topolo. Yeah, we met there. It's a really good network. And this is maybe one example that really worked and is still active. And other villages are all taking part. Someone is restoring a house and getting some guests and telling about the history, about specific things, stories happening in this area. And I think this idea about the child, children, we can't go back, I can't be a child again, but to keep, to be curious, to ask questions, to be open, to be willing to see things that maybe you have to look twice and 3 times and listen to. That's, I think, if we succeed in doing this, we're really conscious. We have won.
I love that idea, the practice to keep on being a child. It shows on the face, yeah, practice. We did a workshop not so long ago at Tihany, which is On the Lake Balaton, it is a very old town part, and there's a little village, and there's a main square, which they just now renovated. They fixed up the square, they put a lot of concrete and beton and marble and whatnot into the square. So it looks very white, it looks very strange, it looks nice, it looks like a nice open air museum. When we arrived there, I was like, we're gonna make a workshop here. We did an improv workshop at this square for half a day. And we only had 2 participants that came for the workshop. So it was a troupe of actors, 5 actors. It was myself, and there were 2 participants, a young boy and a young girl that came through the internet. It was like, perfect, okay, let's work. Every half an hour, a little train stopped on the square and let like 200 tourists out. So it was like a Jacques Tati movie. It was like Playtime by Jacques Tati. Could be a truthful movie as well, but anyways, it was like Jacques Tati. So we were working the whole day, and people would stop by and like get connected into the workshop scenes and games that we were doing, improv games, and then would leave, and then it was amazing. So, but we could see that people were like, oh, this is something else. This is not reality. There's something happening there. This is magic there, or oh, these are weird people there. These are doing something voodoo there. But of course, children were participating right away. They didn't have to question it. They didn't have to think about it, what's going on, because we're always thinking like, shall we do this? No, we're gonna fail. We're gonna do weird things. No, we shouldn't be part of that. We should not fail. We should look like good grown-ups. So that was a really, and then we did a show in the evening, which ended right when the sun went down, because we didn't have any electricity and we didn't have technology. So it was a perfect work like this. And when we were in Tallinn, I could feel that I was so happy that we were a little bit away from the real festival stages, because there were stages put out there, and you can feel when it's like paid culture, like project culture, like this is culture, you should feel cultivated, and then you can go home and beat up your kids. Or when it's like you can choose yourself to do something together with the other people. And I was so happy that we were in this kind of this resorted pub where we could just be on our own and do some very simple things. And that's why I really love improv theater for that reason as well, because you can do anything really with improv theater just as well with all those things that you've been mentioning. And I'm sure you were using improv elements on the buses and stuff. Maybe devised improv.
Well, we must do it because you don't have timing in a bus. You cannot say this scene lasts like this because you can be in traffic jam for 10 minutes.
That's the thing about theater. You kill theater when you know that theater should be like this. Or a performance should start like this, this is where it goes, and this is how it ends, and then curtain, and that's it.
What about you, Rafaela? Can you add from your perspective, because in your photos, I got the impression that you hadn't had these problems, people participating in your activities, in the festival,
the Human Cities Festival.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to give you a little background, we are working for 4 years in this European project called the Human Cities, which is like a dialogue between artists and people dealing with cultural things in public space, but also the academic world. So we have 2 festivals now, one in 2010 and one this year. And the idea is also to mix a public festival in the public space, but also to mix it with like a symposium and lectures in a more scientific way. Okay. The fact is that for this edition of the festival, it's true that we didn't have any problem to attract people, because we had this data pavilion, which was like an info point in the really middle of the city of Brussels, and from that point in which a lot of tourists pass, but also inhabitants and so on, it's really in a central spot. we could, dispatch people to other places. But I think it was more luck than well, also it was also like, good weather, luck, and so on. But
okay, so if you'll be lucky next time, you'll know that it's not only luck. No, and what do you think? Similar question I ask Emil. Have you noticed that there are any effects of such intervention also in relation to authorities? Are they keen of having such intervention, and they invite you, when they're preparing new plans?
I think in general we can say that there has been an evolution in art in public space. Let's say that until the 60s, art in public space was something reserved to the public authorities, and it was always material things, sculptures or things like that. From the 60s until now, we begin to see like an evolution in which those artistic proposals are much more ephemeral, I think because the world is changing so fast, and also to bring a lot of interaction in public space and so on. So you can see that now you have more those ephemeral interventions. And at the beginning it was, I think, much more bottom-up interventions, so artists that take the streets and so on. And from 10 years until now, you can see that public authorities are now willing to not to institutionalize this, but they are also interested in those kind of interventions, for the good or for the bad, because sometimes those kind of things has to remain, bottom up or minority to really have this social or artistic or aesthetic function. And maybe when public authorities get in the middle of there, maybe the really meaning of the thing gets lost. But I think it's still very interesting to think about the connections. You were talking about the fact that you like to consider yourself in the middle of the bottom up and the top down, and I think for most of us this is the most interesting position, because I think there is a lot to do, because sometimes public authorities have the means, have maybe the global view about the city, the global view about the projects and so on, and maybe local people have the view about what is happening really on the field. And I think it's very interesting to mix those two levels, and it's happening a lot more now.
Maybe René can add something to that, because in their project you also stressed how important it is to include different, all these levels, all the three levels, so to say, really the users, the professionals, and the public authorities.
I think all these efforts that give people a sense that it is their place, it is their space, and they have to use it, and they can, and it is enough flexible, the design and the regulations, all the city municipality activities, they should give enough space to have the people reacting on the space, and have it as a living organism that some sort of changes and mutates, and have a lot of traces of human activity in the space. So.
What is your communication? Do you talk also with the municipality and the public department, I guess? What is you to share us with your experience, how to manage your theater play on a totally different public space?
Well, actually we didn't speak with municipality. We tried to speak with the bus company who's running in a specific city, and then speak with them, and then try to go into the bus, like just asking them to give us.
It was enough.
Usually it's enough, and once we had a bad experience in Belgrade, after I don't know 5 or 6 performances, suddenly they decided it's not safe and it's not something like this, but it was a political decision, which was stupid. And then we rent the bus. We rent a private bus, but then we write the number of. It looks like it's random. We just write 26. You have to fake it. Yeah, but it was, and just the guy from this company here just wait for one bus, this public bus to go, and then we just go in and play like regular bus.
But what was so dangerous? What did they feel it was dangerous?
No.
What did they say it was? What was dangerous? They said.
Well, it's you're standing, then you're playing. That maybe someone will fell down and this thing like this. Yes. It's stupid in Belgrade. But no, it was really political decision. We stepped on someone's foot, and they didn't like it. And then in Denmark it happened that. In Norway it happened that. First few days we played for 5 days there, and then first 3 days it was okay, but bus drivers was not happy. So bus drivers actually just said it's not safe because we're distracted, with the guys outside. So actually they refused to drive. So actually only the woman who was representative of bus drivers in a company as a shareholder or something like this, she said, okay, but we agreed that we will do it, so I will do it. So whatever happened, and she really came into bus really okay, now we go. So she starts to ride the bus, and then she realized that really we are experienced and we are not a bunch of crazy people who are jumping around, on the bus. So then, in the middle of the ride, she called all the colleagues with the radio, and she said okay, you're really wrong. This is what's going on. It's amazing. You're really kind of stupid to refuse to ride. But usually it's okay, and I think that bus companies are just see this as a promotional thing.
Mm-hmm. You said that they were pretty hostile with your play in the bus in the northern countries, right?
Yes.
They didn't like this. So it was really issue of this intolerance of different cultures, or was it just this problem that you were now saying that generally they don't like anything new, they don't like to have something new in the bus? I'm just curious, because I was living in Finland for some time, and it is pretty different, the culture is different from culture here. So just...
Yeah, you had a good point. Well, to be afraid of something new, this is the problem in Northern European countries, because now many people from poor countries arrive there, and then this is seed of not good relations, so to be afraid of something new. Well, probably also, the cultural differences, and then they don't expect that someone will go in, or maybe they thought that people will ask for money, or But no, generally we really get good reactions all over the place, but for me it was surprising to see cold faces in and in Scandinavia and in Britain also, and
I would just like to say again that spontaneity is one of the key elements of good public space, not just on the side of users and administrators, also designers, and maybe I will share one experience with you from southern Italy. I was in Naples and I was asked to represent some processes that are going on in Ljubljana in the field of redesign of public spaces. I was showing how the concepts are taking place in spaces, or the common yoga lessons and so on, and theater performance, street theater and so on. And at the end they asked me, so when will you really talk about public space? And I was saying, well, this was a trial, I finished my explanation. And I said, but we meant the spontaneous public space, that's the real public space, where people can come spontaneously, they don't have any arranged theater or performances or anything, they simply come and gather and do things together. And I said, well, this was the case from my childhood maybe. When we spontaneously went out to the street, we played, parents went out and talked about daily issues, but I said, I'm afraid it's gone. This spontaneity doesn't exist anymore.
It's the fear of failing. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
The people not reacting to that theater on the bus, they're afraid to change. They want to look there back and they want to see the same people doing exactly the same thing. And when they look back and they're weird, they go like, ooh, there's something abnormal happening, something spontaneous happening, something fearful happening. And we just don't want to change. It's better. That's why we go to the theater, to see actors change or films. But we don't want to do it ourselves in the street.
To be the first one who maybe, you know.
We want to watch it. Yeah, we want to watch it. Yeah.
The public space always reflects the state of the art in the society. As you were explaining, the relations are very different in different cultural environments. That's the fact.
I would like just to point one thing, like which is connection or comments of young people, usually young people, because this is, I want to speak about kind of its new form, art slash sport slash whatever. It's new thing, and then it's not still, we didn't like put it in drawers. It's parkour or free running. So probably you saw it's just this crazy guys who are jumping kind of from roof to another roof, or yeah. So for me this is how young kids or young people perceive the public space, and for them it becomes not like urban place or public place. For me, this kind of expression to buildings or to whatever it's in a public space, it's just like it starts to be like natural habitat for them, like jungle for animals, you know. So for me, for those kids, village it's something really different. For them, this is nature, you know. So and really like architects and people from municipality or from government, I don't know who's deciding what it's going to be, but must be really careful how they project places where people live.
But I wanted to comment of your example of parkour. That this is when you see the way they are using the space, and you try to ask an architect, can you make this space for them to use it like that? No, you can. I think it's the same for some other artistic activity in the space. They simply, you can't, as an architect, this is too complex to plan a space for that. This has to be spontaneous.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
We all understood that the most important part is being open, so each of us can contribute in a different way, being just a pedestrian or just a passenger in a bus or a researcher or somebody working at the municipality and actually deciding. So maybe this could be our conclusion. So we tackled only some questions, many more are open. So I would like to invite all of you, if you think that there is any interesting question or that we could think about when we leave this, room for the future, or you think that you already expressed what you think. So if there is anything that...
Yeah, I would maybe ask each of us when we leave this room to think where is the nearest real public space close to our home and how do we contribute to it. Because as citizens, as civil society, we have a great role in all these processes. Not matter what is our profession.
Okay, thank you. So maybe I can invite you to our nearest
public space, which is the yard down there, and would like to invite you all to enjoy local cuisine and use the unique opportunity to know the cultural contact points from our neighboring countries and Belgium, and of course all our guest speakers. You know, it might be a beginning of a wonderful friendship, and if not, maybe a beginning of an interesting European project. So use the opportunity. Thank you to all of you.